All right. 2.3, we are multiplying matrices. We're going to see that this gets quite a bit harder than what we've been doing because I am going to require you to multiply by hand. Calculator works just like adding and subtracting, but when you multiply, it's multiply a matrix by a matrix. It gets really complicated. And so we are going to learn to do that by hand. But first, we're going to start off with a little bit of a simpler idea. And this is scalar multiplication. So a scalar is a number that you multiply the matrix by. So it's a number times a matrix, not a matrix times a matrix. That makes sense. So in order to do scalar multiplication, you multiply each element by the scalar, kind of like the distributive property. We're just distributing that number into each element of the matrix. So number one, we're doing 3G. So we're going to multiply matrix G by 3. So I'm going to rewrite this 3, and then I'm going to write in matrix G. We multiply each element by 3. And you can type this in the calculator. You can type in a 3 and then the matrix right beside of it. But if you know your multiplication tables, and you should know how to multiply by 3, it's a lot faster to just do it in your head. So we have 15. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 9 is 27. And 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So try number 2. You should get 14, 16, 0. Questions? If you look at number 3, we're doing 7L. So we're doing 7 times matrix L minus 5G. Probably getting to where it would be easier to just type it in the calculator. So 7, and then you type in a matrix. Do you all remember what buttons you push to do a matrix? Alpha zoom. And it's a 2 by 2 matrix. L is. Notice how I have typed 7 and then a matrix, minus 5 and then another matrix. Any questions on how I typed this in? So then if I do the other one, I have negative 4. Oops. and then H plus 2 matrix L. Any questions? Okay. So multiplying by a scalar, nothing calculation-wise that's hard. So when we get to multiplying a matrix by a matrix, that it gets tricky. And there's a lot of things to remember. It's a long process. So this is something you have to be paying attention or you'll get lost really fast. So first of all, multiplying matrices is not like regular multiplication where 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 2 is also 6. You can't flip the order of your matrices when you multiply them. You'll get two different answers. So when you're multiplying two matrices, order matters. So the order that you have them wrote down in. Sometimes you cannot multiply matrices. It's different than adding and subtracting because they don't have to have the same dimensions. They don't both have to be a 2 by 3 and a 2 by 3. In fact, that wouldn't work. So in order to multiply, the number of columns in the first matrix must match the number of rows in the second matrix. I'm going to show you just kind of a quick way to check. It makes it easy to check. So what you want to do is write your two dimensions side by side. So we have a 2 by 3 matrix that we want to multiply by a 3 by 3. Those dimensions are different. We could not add or subtract them, but maybe we can multiply them. So to figure out if we can multiply them, you look at the inside numbers, these two. Those inside numbers have to match. Do they match?
Yeah.
Yes. So these we can multiply. Not only that, but we can tell what the dimensions of our answer will be. Okay, we look at the outside numbers. Our answer is going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. A 2 by 3. If the middle numbers don't match, then you don't even need to look at the outside numbers because it doesn't work anyway. So let's look at some examples. Number 5, we want to see if we can multiply G times H. So what are the dimensions of G? 2 by 2. What are the dimensions of H? Also a 2 by 2. Do these middle numbers match?
Yes.
Yes, so yes, they can be multiplied. And what are the dimensions of the answer? Also a 2 by 2. Good. Number 6. We're going to do K times M. So what are the dimensions of K? It is a 1 by 3 because it has one row going across and 3 numbers up and down. What about the dimensions of M? 3 by 1. Do the middle numbers match?
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, we can multiply. What size will my answer be?
1 by 1.
one by one. Which means it's only going to have one number in the matrix. What are the dimensions of J?
3 by 1.
3 by 1. And we also said that M was a 3 by 1. You would think if they have the same dimensions that they can be multiplied. But can they?
No.
No. Because those middle numbers don't match. And then number 8, J we said is a 3 by 1. K is a 1 by 3. Does it work?
Yes.
Yes. What size answer will I have?
3 by 3.
3 by 3. Good. So now we're going to get into actually doing the multiplication. A lot of calculations we're going to have. The bigger, the more elements that are in our answer, the more calculations we have to do. So we're going to kind of work through these steps, starting with question number 9. So we're going to start out by determining if we can even do the multiplication. So on number 9, what are the dimensions?
2 by 3 and a 3 by 2.
2 by 3 and a 3 by 2. Does it work?
Yes.
Yes. What size will my answer be?
2 by 2.
2 by 2. So let's go ahead and go to this bottom corner and make a place for our answer. You're going to have to write kind of small. You don't want to take up a ton of room because we're going to have a lot of math in these boxes. Okay. And what I'm going to do, because it helps me, is I'm going to go ahead and just make some blanks to remind myself that I've got 4 numbers. And I'm going to go ahead and label this row 1, row 2, column 1, column 2. Until you get really good at this and can remember the process, you need to label everything. It'll make your life a lot easier. Step 2 says circle the rows in the first matrix and the columns in the second matrix. So the rows, and I'm going to label these row 1 and row 2. And the columns in the second matrix. Column 1, column 2. Step 3 says find the dot product. That is something that you have never learned before. So I'm going to show you what the dot product is. Dot product, I don't know where it got its name, but what you do is you multiply the first 2 numbers. So the 1 and the 4. You multiply the second numbers, the 2 and the 5. And then the third numbers, the 3 and the 6, and you add those together. What is 1 times 4? What is 2 times 5? 3 times 6? And so we're going to add 4 plus 10 plus 18. And you get 32. So the dot product is 32. So however many elements are in your answer, that's how many times we have to do this dot product. So let's get started. So number 9, we've already kind of got everything labeled. Always what you need to do to start off. So I'm going to find the number that goes in this blank. What row is this blank in? What column? 1. So I'm going to come over here and do the dot product between what I have labeled as row 1 and as column 1. So I'm going to do the dot product between 6, -6, -4, and 2, 2, -3. So I took my first row and that first column. What is 6 times 2? 12. -6 times 2? -12. -4 times -3? 12. What do you get if you add all three of those numbers together? 12. Because 12 and -12 is 0, and then you got another 12. So this first element gets a 12. Let's look at this one. What row is this one in? 1. What column? 2. So I'm going to still use row 1. Then I'm going to do the dot product with row 2, or column 2, sorry. What is 6 times -5? -30. -6 times 3? -18. And -4 times 5? -20. So then you add those three numbers together. And you should get -68. Are there any questions so far? Okay. Now this next element, what row is this one in? Row 2, column 1. So row 2 dotted with column 1. If we multiply the 1 and the 2, we get 2. -6 and 2, -12, -6 and -3, you get 18. And when added together, what do you get? 8. Very good. The last one, we got row 2 and column 2. One times -5 is -5 plus -18 plus -30. Is it -53? And you can check it in your calculator. Alpha zoom, I have a 2 by 3. Now if it was one that doesn't work out, the calculator will give you an error. It'll say something about dimensions. So if you say you missed one of these 4 numbers, you don't need to rework the whole problem. Just go to that section where you were working on that number. Now, if you missed like all of them or several, you might want to check to make sure you typed it in correctly. Let's go to number 10. Can this one be done? Yes, we have a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2, and your answer is going to be a 2 by 2. Yep. One, 2, column 1. 2. Notice how I've labeled rows, columns. So my first one, I'm going to do the dot product with row 1 and column 1. Does everybody know why I'm picking these 2 sets of numbers? If you don't, it's okay, speak up. So 5 times negative 1 is negative 5, and 6 times 0 is 0. So added together, we get negative 5. Then I'm going to do row 1, column 2. We have negative 5 plus negative 24, which is negative 29.
Where did the negative 5 come
These first 2 numbers, when you multiply them, 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And then you multiply the second 2 numbers. Then I'm going to do row 2, column 1. We have negative 5 plus 0. Oh. And then the last one is row 2, column 2. And we have -5 plus -12, which is -17. Are there any questions? Let's look at number 11. What's the dimensions of my first one? 1 by 2. And the other one? 2 by 2. Can it be done? My answer is going to be a 1 by 2. This one's going to be a lot faster. So the rows in the first one, label that. Columns in the second one. And I label down here. So my first dot product, I'm taking row 1 and column 1. And we get -8 plus -5, which is what?
-13.
It is good. And then row 1, but with column 2. And I get 4 plus -10, which is -6. I want you to work on number 12. Maybe. Try and pause it. You should get -8, 34, 10, and 2. So if you missed any one of those 4 numbers, you should know where to go back, check your math, check your calculations. You probably missed a negative somewhere. And again, it would be a really good idea for you to type it in your calculator, check your answer. Any questions?